125, 110. Welcome to Raptors Tonight. I'm Randy Irvin, joined by Jack Armstrong, Sherman, Hamilton, and of course, Alvin Williams. Alvin, yeah, he's
Elvis?
Alvin Williams. He's always here.
Can I say something?
Here.
Hold on a minute.
Okay.
I was with Alvin before the game.
Oh, here we go.
And I said, Alvin, I can't wait to do the post-game show with you, Sherman, and Randy.
Yeah.
Alvin's like, I'm doing the post-game show? Like, aren't you in charge of the show? Like, don't you tell your talent what they're doing? Like, this is talent here.
Why are you looking at me?
And you're,
Because
Waiting for your response.
concern.
My response is
he had no idea.
when he's in the building, he's on the show.
No,
And that was already discussed, right?
Didn't we?
I'm asking you a question.
You know what, Jack?
Yes.
My mom and dad both told me, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
It's a fact.
What does
So
that
this
have
is my
anything
last.
to do
This
with-
is my last day. This is my last day.
Thank goodness. 'Cause
Randy,
you were getting hard to deal with.
We need
Yeah.
you, man.
well, you know, he had no idea, and I'm like, I can't wait. I've never done, Sherman and I have done
Well, it's not-
thousands upon thousands of shows together.
You're here.
But Alvin and I
is a
have
special
never
occasion.
done a show together.
Yeah.
Randy,
And
were you?
that's how you want to start it.
I was thrilled, but you never even informed him. So now here he is coming in.
I couldn't even share the same enthusiasm because I had no clue.
Okay, well, I thought we had an unspoken bond. Where
I don't
just think
do
of-
anything unspoken.
All right.
But anyway, we can go to
Let's
show.
talk about the game.
Sure.
Sherman, how about we start with you?
Wow.
Jack got my back.
It's a bad day when I'm your only friend on the show. I'm just telling you that from now.
What did you like about the way the Raptors regained momentum there in the fourth quarter? You just talk to
Well,
me.
they
You can just have a
they
show.
showed
You and me.
poise. You know what I mean? We've seen enough games where the Raptors weren't able to close it out, weren't able to make the plays on both sides of the basketball to get it done. And when you jump out to a 49-point first quarter, listen, human nature can kick in. You take your foot off the gas, and Denver kind of comes back. And when they went on that run in the third quarter, it was a gut check time. And I thought they did a great job withstanding it. They bent, they didn't break, and Fred was just off the charts good. And it just showed me, again, it reinforces when you have a leader on the floor at the point guard spot that can make the right decision at the right moment.
Yeah.
It's everything in late game situations, and he was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah. Al, he did not want to let. He was not going to let the Raptors lose tonight. Simply, that's the way he played.
No doubt about it, man. He, to Sherman's point, I'm old school, right? I like having that primary person that everyone can look to in the darkest times. On the court, off the court, in the locker room, during the game. And Fred, I think Fred out of this unit, Fred is that guy that can be most consistent of that part, of that position. Making the right decision is, of course, you can be versatile. You can have different people handle the ball at certain times. But I love the way Fred just managed the game. When they needed a point, when they needed to score, him being more aggressive. But he started the game out just facilitating, getting people involved, and then he went for his. So I love that makeup, and I love Fred being in that position.
Yeah. Any other standout performances?
Well, I
for
mean,
you,
to
Jack?
me, the standout performance was the fact that I thought there was togetherness tonight. I really thought they were a together group, and the ball moved, and Barnes and Anunoby and Siakam and Pirtle, everyone was kind of connected. And look, I didn't have the game tonight, so I had the opportunity to be in the stands a little bit and talk to fans about it. And a lot of people are saying, hey, Pascal Siakam's numbers are down, this, that, the other thing. And I'm like, okay, maybe this is the coach in me talking, but I'm like, so what? It's about winning. It's about winning. It's about sacrifice. It's about each other. And I thought Pascal tonight made some really cool, selfless plays to help teammates be good. And I thought there was a real cool connection tonight in terms of how they played and how they had each other's back. And I tell you what, that first quarter was utterly brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
It was just
Yeah.
brilliant.
So let's go back.
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
that's all I have to say.
And going back to the execution when it's 24 and then it's 3 or 4 and you give a team like that life, they're going to take it from you at that point. But the Raptors withstood the pressure. What did you guys like about how they executed in those moments where it got dicey?
Unlike last week when the chips were down and they had, there's been so much discussion about the referees. There were a lot of possessions that were just empty possessions where they didn't get a great shot and they kind of got individualistic. I thought tonight they kind of came together and really there was a bond there in terms of like the ball moved, they got to the weak side and they just played together like a team. So to me, I think they grew in 8 days. And if they can do what they did tonight, I mean, that's a really good team. I know they're on a losing streak. Every team goes through. Look at the Celtics. Every team goes through it. But to me, that's a really good win against a very good team. And I thought they stayed together and played together.
Sure, when you're watching that and it's getting down, it's getting 4 points, what are you thinking? What are you thinking they need to do, and what did you like about what they did do?
Well, like in any other game, I look for them to have the stabilizing plays. When teams make a run, you've got to be able to have the plays at the right time. You might not kill the whole thing, but there's junctures where you need that bucket or you need that stop. You need to just kind of stymie the momentum. And I thought they did that. And I used the term earlier, they bent, but they didn't break. Look, Denver made it really interesting and made it really problematic for the Raptors. And I thought that their ability to stay in the fight, to not let go of the rope, and not only stay in the fight, start to fire back.
Yeah.
I thought that was excellent. And it's a rough time of the year. You know what I mean? It's a tough time of the year. And I thought for them to show that kind of resilience, that toughness, that no give up mentality in that juncture against an elite team that is playing not their best basketball, but they're still an elite team in the Western Conference.
Yeah, number one in the West.
I thought it showed a lot of mental fortitude, a lot of grit, a lot of determination, and they weren't going to let go of this game, and it was impressive to see.
Al, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about Alvin, or about Fred. You're Alvin. He sits down, comes back in.
He's on the show tonight. You didn't know it, but he's on the show tonight.
I appreciate that.
Fred was here. Who knows?
I appreciate that. But when you're having the game that he's having, and then you sit down for a few minutes, or however long it was in the fourth quarter, he comes back in. Is it difficult to get that back the way you were playing, shooting touch, the feel, or I think he came in and buried a three right away, right? I mean,
Yeah, he did, but not if you remove yourself from all of that. When you're a leader, you got to remove yourself from you, right? And you have to operate for the team. And whatever it means, if it means me being more aggressive offensively, trying to score, or just setting the table defensively. But a lot of times what happens when players start going in slumps and players that's not familiar having that role, they start thinking about themselves too much. They start thinking about their struggles too much,
right?
And why things are happening to them and not for the team. As Jack said, Pascal numbers are down. So what?
Right.
Or OG's not playing as much. So what? Like, it's about the team. And of course, individually, you want to play well, you want to get minutes, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But if you're someone like Fred who's taking that role on as being the leader of this team, and I saw Fred a couple times tonight, referee would say something, he'd go like that to himself. I remember him going by Nick one time, he was like, don't worry about it. I saw him grab Scotty and rub his head after he hit a backdoor play at the end of the quarter. I saw him do all of it. That's what a leader does, and that's what keeps everything even keel. So your emotions don't overtake the game, and I think that's a big difference.
You mentioned Scotty Barnes tonight. The last few games, guys, I really like how he's starting games. Like he's got a good sweat, he's ready to play, he's being aggressive, and I think early this season he's kind of passive and kind of letting the game come to him. And I joke all the time, you don't want to peak too early. I think he's kind of. There have been times he's kind of grooved and eased his way into games. The last few games out in the West Coast, and now he's coming out and playing with some force. I like that, and it's not always going to be pretty, which is fine, but he's coming out playing hard. in the first quarters now, and I think that makes their team better.
And it's carrying over.
Yeah.
It carries over from possession to possession, quarter to quarter, and then game to game. He's stringing games along with the same type of effort.
Yeah.
Forget the numbers and everything, but the same effort, to Jack's point. He's coming out and he's being that point. I saw today when Nick Nurse substitute Gary out, and like almost like 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter. I was like, wow, that's an interesting sub. Gary came in, got the steal, got the dunk, and then Scotty came back in, and he went back to the energy, the defense, and the playmaking stuff. So it was a great timeout. I mean, it was a great substitution to keep his energy and everything. And so they're doing a good job. Tonight they did a very good job of putting all the pieces together.
So Sherman, aside from that third quarter, then how did the Raptors, how did their defense contribute to taking Denver out of their game?
Well, I think early in the game, in that first quarter, they established a pace.
Yeah.
And they did a great job of attacking the paint of the Denver Nuggets. Then when the Denver Nuggets kind of condensed their defense, they went to the three-point line, and OG and Fred were knocking down threes. And I think they just got them off balance really, really early in the game. And listen, I know we're talking about Fred, talk about Scotty, who both of them were excellent. OG Anunoby
Oh, yeah.
is phenomenal, again. The job he does defensively is absolutely impressive. He's so physical, but he doesn't foul. He moves his feet well. He's got a lower center of gravity than Jokic, and he utilizes that to his advantage. And then offensively, he's making plays consistently. And I just think his balance, his approach, his impact on the game on both sides of the basketball, it's kind of like Alvin's impact when he drops all kind of stuff on his plate. It's not as messy.
Dude.
It's interesting.
I didn't eat today, man. I didn't eat today. I'm sorry.
I know,
But you know what? You want to put food in front of me? I can't eat. That's cool.
no, you can eat.
No, you
It's
gotta
like having a show and not telling me I'm supposed to be here.
Well,
No,
that happens
that's
all
not
the-
right.
I'm
That
just off-
happens all the time.
I'm just
It's
off
not
balance.
It's not right.
do that.
It's
Now,
not right
They're
there.
going to say something.
No,
But that's-
they're
no, you're
getting,
talking about OG. I
you guys
mean,
are getting off track over here.
Off the rails over here?
Yeah,
You look
yeah.
at last Monday
Lock it
and
up.
tonight, 8 days later, both nights he did a good job against Jokic, did a good job against Anthony Davis. I mean, overwhelmingly, you look at the trip, Bradley Beal, I mean, the whole thing.
Kawhi.
That's Kawhi, that's hard to do.
Let me ask you guys a question. Do you guys,
It's crazy.
looking at and maybe knowing OG better than me, which I don't know him at all, but watching him play, do you think he has a scouting report? Like he watched film on these guys, knowing their tendencies? Because when I look at him, it doesn't look like he knows exactly what he just has great reaction time, and he has the strength and the athleticism and the length. But I watch sometimes some players do things, and he's like out of position when guys do their favorite move. Like for instance, Joker had the ball in the low post. He's spinning baseline every time, and he gets that move
Right there.
And it's like, do you look at the film, or you like what is it? And I wonder, because some of the best defenders, they really know the
What they're-
tendencies. They
yeah.
know the one
I-
move and the second move.
I will say this, I look at OG, number one, I think he's been coached here. He had a really good college coach in Tom Crean, and he's had Dwayne Casey and Nick Nurse. He's been coached. So that's number
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
And number two, I do think watching him prepare, and he watches video
Yeah.
and he's prepared. So he's very bright, and he's
For sure.
intuitive, and he's alert, and he's seen everything now.
Yeah.
And I think he prides himself in that. Sherman, I mean, you've been here a long time. I think you.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There's no doubt in my mind that OG Anunoby does look at tape and look at scouting
No,
reports.
he's
and
ready.
tendency,
He's ready to play.
But he has that added element that great defenders have. The reaction. Excuse me. No, that's okay. That's okay. That kind of reaction, yeah.
We got fries over here.
I should have
too.
blocked him. But he has the reaction. He has the ability
A lot
to
of fries
recover.
over here.
You know what I mean? And let's just talk about fries. No?
No, I mean,
Let's talk about fries.
The dunk was crazy. Have you ever got up like that?
If I say yes, will you believe me?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I
I know what you used to do. I know what you used to do.
Oh,
No, but that was nice today.
Wasn't it?
Look at that. Have you ever done that, Al? No. Probably not.
Wow.
Don't ever ask me a question and answer it for me.
You're a grown man.
Is that not?
At the end of the day.
That's a good host. A good host.
That sounds like a bad host to me.
Good hosts tell you if you're on
Clearly,
the
and not a good coordinator because Alvin didn't even know he was doing the show tonight.
True.
When I watch him, what you were saying about defense and the scouting report and all that, but offensively, guys,
Trying to
he
get
looks
serious.
he looks different this last week. Like he looks, it's tighter, it's cleaner. He looks good.
I'll tell you why. I look at how they're playing right now. It's not ball dominant. It's sharing. I think everyone's involved. And I said this before. Now, the biggest adjustment on this roster right now is Pascal Siakam. Because you add Jakob Poeltl, and that changes your entire team. And now you put Gary Trent Jr. and Precious Achiuwa, and you add Will Barton and yada, yada, yada. And now for a guy like Siakam, who for the first half of the season had the ball in his hands a ton, he doesn't have the ball in his hands as much anymore. And the ball is flying around a little bit more. And for me, I think the biggest adjustment is Pascal. And I think he's still growing through it. And, I was asked on a radio show today, Pascal was talking about the joy of this season. I would say a month ago, he would have never answered that question the way he answered it. I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that he and Jakob Poeltl are very tight, and they get along great. But the offense is different now. They're doing a lot of mid-screen and roll with Poeltl and VanVleet. Scotty Barnes is touching the ball more. OG Anunoby's more involved. Gary Trent is a featured guy off the bench. And I think if you're Siakam, who was kind of like relied upon early in the year to kind of carry everything, they've evolved as a team now. And how they evolve and how he evolves is going to be really important, because if they can be 5 as one and a team, and some guys have a great night and some guys maybe struggle, but you find ways to win, I think what's wrong with that?
No, yeah, for sure. It's all about wins.
I think at that right, and this is the NBA, so it's not a lot of time for babysitting. It's not a lot of time for, I know we talk about development and all that type of stuff, but if you are Pascal, right, and not knowing him either, and the offense was formed one way with you the head of it, and then it starts to shift, the best way to help a player through that is constant coaching, communication, and showing him why it's important for us to do this. This is what we're doing. We made a trade. We did this. And then all I would do is go back to the 2019 team. I would go talk about a Kyle Lowry who had to sacrifice his game when Kawhi came. I'll talk about a Serge Ibaka who went to the bench when Marc Gasol came.
That's a good point.
I'll talk about all these things, because at the end of the day, if you're not buying in, and I'm not saying he's not, but for any player, it's hard.
And he was there for that.
Yeah, he's there. He saw it. He became a person that Kyle Lowry had to sacrifice for, because he became that second guy and not Kyle, or whatever the case may be. But all the great players had to do it. Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, like these guys had to sacrifice to a certain degree to help their team. And then you figure out, how can I be the best version of myself to help this team at some point?
Right.
And it's once again, it's a growing point. And I love one thing I read that he said, even in the worst times, it's still joy getting yourself out of that.
Right.
So that's a positive outlook on it.
For sure.
But at the same time, this team needs him to be him, but just in different ways and different times. And once again, I love how Fred is the guy that pretty much is the traditional point guard, so to speak, because he will facilitate. You mentioned a lot, managing the game.
All right, good stuff, guys. We got a special guest now, though. Special guest time. Come on in.
Time
Come
to
on
show.
in. Here, hold on. Let me get that.
Hold on,
Let me
man.
get that. All right. This is the Vice President of Basketball Operations for the Toronto Raptors, Teresa Resch. Teresa, thanks for coming on the show. How are you?
I am great. I'm so happy to be here.
We are in
You
royalty.
guys, I will
Teresa, here's a cup of coffee
Yes,
for you.
can we do a little cheers?
Yeah,
Can we do
for
a special
sure.
cheers,
Let's do a
right?
special cheers, yeah. Here, I gotta put my
Okay.
coffee in.
No?
You can't share with coffee.
Everybody's taking this moment to
Cheers.
cheers to Raptors win right
Raptors
here.
win.
All right, 1
Right.
second.
Sure.
I gotta get your
Al,
shirt.
yeah, don't worry.
Just
Al.
make eye contact.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Thank you. Well, Teresa.
Thanks for that elixir, Jack. Appreciate
My
that.
pleasure. Well
Special Jack
described.
elixir.
A lot of things fall on your shoulders as the Vice President of Basketball Operations. Can you just give a brief summary of what some of those things are?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing that my job is really building relationships. So I have to admit, whatever you guys were talking about for the last 10 minutes, I didn't hear a single word because I was over
better
there
for it.
working on international
Your life is
relationships
so much more fulfilling.
with some people from the Nuggets, from the Knicks, in town. So you got to work on those international relations. But it really is. So I am in the basketball operations group, but I also liaison with our business side. Broadcast is part of that, and really my job is to make sure that anybody that kind of touches the Raptors in any sort of capacity has the resources they need to really compete at a championship level. So whatever you need, I'm really looking after. And another thing was just on the business side. So you think about the business side. So you have our membership, season seat holders, you have our partners, huge corporate partners who support us, you have our content, so digital media, and what those people do and what those groups do is really translate what we're trying to do on the court to the public. Everybody else who's a fan and just making sure that we're aligned. So what we're trying to do on the court on the basketball side is translated to all of our fans and all the people that interact and touch the Raptors.
Beautiful, and you got to deal with the
Beautiful.
talent too. Well, which is not hard or not easy to do with some of these guys,
It's not hard at all.
especially. But let's go back to the past a little bit. You worked for the NBA office for 5 years.
Yeah.
What are you most proud of during your time there?
There's a lot of things I could say, but it's really funny. So one of the people here from the Nuggets, who Randy knows really well,
Yeah.
Deche, he was actually a camper at one of the very first camps I worked.
Really?
In international basketball operations. And to see him go from a camper to a collegiate athlete, go back home for a little bit, get back to his home, and now have a job in the front office as a scout with an NBA team.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible
Yeah,
to see.
yeah.
So, not that I was personally responsible for that, but I think understanding the impact that we're able to have on a global scale. I work directly in international basketball operations, so to run development camps around the globe and to really impact the future of the game was really impactful, and it's really, really awesome to see now. I mean, I'm going to date myself, but I started in 2006, so
Damn.
that was, thank you, Alvin.
Not that old, Teresa. It's okay.
What were you doing in 2006, Alvin?
See what I
Ice in
mean?
my knee.
Yeah, exactly,
Ice in my knee. Yeah, I was washed up.
Yeah,
It's all
but
good.
It's actually,
I was ice in my head.
well, I was just getting started, and it was awesome. And I think at that time there's 12 people working in international basketball operations at the league office, all out of New York City. And a good friend of mine, Dawn Smythe, she worked for Canada Basketball for a long time. She got a job there in 2019. Working in the exact same department, international basketball operations. She's in charge of grassroots junior NBA on a global scale. And now that same department has 52 people in every single region of the country, in the world, which is, I think, 8 different countries. And to see the impact that they're having, and also, not that it all started with me, but I was part of it when it was still all based in New York. So not that I'm singly responsible for that, but it's really incredible to see how the game has grown and to kind of be there when it kind of started.
I wanted to mention something because you and I chatted about this when I saw you just a few weeks ago. And we chatted about when you first got to Toronto, improving the travel situation for the Raptors.
We had a great lunch
Yeah,
right here at Real Sports.
right here at Real Sports. And
grilled
Jeff
cheese.
Weltman and all the grilled
with the
cheese.
tomato soup.
Exactly.
Sounds great.
And
Sounds fantastic.
there was something pretty cool that happened recently with the Raptors being able to, leave Canada and go to the United States in a different way from a travel perspective, which I think is going to help the Raptors from a recruitment and retention perspective. I think our fans would love to hear that.
Yeah, it's a trial, so we don't want to talk too much about it because we still are in a trial phase. But
we're on our way.
we're working really closely with a third party company to understand how we can post clear so that we can avoid going through the main terminal. And it's something that for us we are so privileged, and I think we all appreciate it. You know, we have expedited security lines, we have expedited customs, but we still go through the main terminal, which is something that none of the other 29 teams have to do when they're traveling. So this is an opportunity to really eliminate that, and it's something that we're trying out in partnership with a third-party organization that has great connections and has really helped us out to try to navigate that piece of something that sets Toronto apart, right?
Okay, let's go to 2013 then. You get hired by Masai. Just
Well, are you just going down the
I know,
list?
no, I mean,
like
this is
Teresa's
interesting.
life.
To me,
Here we
yeah.
go.
Yeah.
No, but what were you thinking when you get hired by Masai? Like,
Here?
are you,
Yeah,
Yeah.
2013. Well, Messiah had met because he was the camp director for the camps we did in Africa, right? So what I was thinking was I'd left professional sports because I didn't think that the future was there. So I said, well, this is an unbelievable opportunity to be a member of the front office of an NBA team. I said, I can't pass it up. So he sold me with key lime pie at 11. And,
all it takes
and I
sometimes,
moved to
right?
Toronto. I'd never been here before the day I moved here. And started off. Honestly, I think what was in my mind, it was funny because my parents are not big NBA fans. They love the Minnesota Golden Gophers, follow it, but not NBA. And they said, well, how is Toronto? And I said, I'm not sure. I don't think they're very good. I don't think they made the playoffs, but I had left the NBA. I was working in private industry, so I hadn't really followed it that much. So for me, it was like relearning the league, understanding. I never worked for a team before. So for me, it was like jumping into the deep end and just trying to you're one of those people, right? Like with trying to just keep your nose above water a little bit. So I was overwhelmed, but like unbelievably grateful for the opportunity, and I learned so much. And honestly, like I'll never forget. So I gotten hired in. I came for the draft, right? So that was the draft, Giannis's draft. We had 0 picks, but I came and met all the people and was there for it. And then I was supposed to start July 1, but I had a canoe trip planned already, so I didn't start until August 1st. And and I remember during that month between the draft, I came to Summer League for like 2 days just because that was all I could fit in my schedule. And then I came back the next month. Between that time, we had traded Bargnani. And literally that became the start of what led us to a championship, because part of that trade was a New York Knicks unprotected first-round pick, which turned into
Jakob
Poeltl, a lottery pick the same year that we were in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yep.
Never happens to have a lottery pick when you're in the Eastern Conference Finals. We pick Jakob Poeltl, and that deal only happens because the Spurs needed a young talent. If we didn't have that lottery pick, we don't have Jakob Poeltl, we don't get Kawhi Leonard, and we don't win a championship.
Yep.
So it all starts, like it's all
You never
connected.
know.
It's
That's
all
interesting.
connected,
Yep.
right?
and then before that, when it doesn't all happen unless Alvin retires.
Well, I think what I get the most
That ain't
the most
right.
I get out of
Kidding.
the thing I get out of everything is it takes grilled cheese and key lime pie
At 11
to
o'clock.
get you. Yeah. To get
Key
you.
lime pie, the grilled
get
cheese was
juices
when
going.
I arrived.
Yeah,
So,
but you really get
Food.
going.
Yeah. I remember
Okay.
those things very clearly, right?
So,
Yeah.
Teresa, it's Women Empowerment Day for the Toronto Raptors in the game. When it comes to women's athletics, what do you wish more people were aware of?
Honestly, the biggest thing is like the investment part. So we all followed Brittany Griner being in Russia.
Yeah.
Her agent, Lindsay Colas, unbelievable. I've only met her once, but an unbelievable advocate, unbelievable agent as well. Represents Brittany Griner. She wrote an op-ed in the LA Times. Probably it was in April of 2 years ago now, when she was first there, and she talked about why. She talked about equal pay, why Brittany was playing in Russia, why she was even over there. And the thing that she said that I thought was really interesting was ultimately for women's sports to catch up to where the men are now, we have to invest in women professional sports at 3 times the level that we're investing in Raptors. Not even Raptors, sorry, men's sports, in order to just catch up, right? That's just to catch up. So if you think about what you're willing to pay to go to a Raptors game, if you pay 3 times that much to attend a WNBA game, that will just get women's sports caught up. So if you kind of think about it in that frame of mind, you understand how big of a gap there is right now. Now, that's not going to change overnight, but I think if you think about how you're spending your money, what sponsors you're supporting, what t-shirt you're buying for Christmas, invest in women's sports, watch the game, buy WNBA League Pass. It's $25. You know how many times I've thrown $25 away? Like, I bet on the Super Bowl and lost it, you know? Like,
Bet on the Eagles, huh?
I bet on numbers. I didn't bet on a team. But I think that's the biggest thing I want people to take away is the women's sports, specifically professional sports, are only going to grow if we invest in them. And that can be as much as spending $25 for WNBA League Pass, spending $25 to buy a game to the WNBA preseason game that's going to happen in Toronto, or spending $50 million and buying an NWSL team. It's all goes to the same thing, and I think it's all about investing in a major way, right?
I got to ask you about the excitement of the WNBA
Oh, isn't that
game
great?
coming
That's
up
really great,
here
yeah.
in Toronto. Just your thoughts on that. I mean, like selling out, like it's just amazing.
No, it's awesome, and kudos to NBA Canada and the WNBA for making that happen. It's a partnership that they've done. Obviously, MLSE is connected to it because we're hosting it. We're hosting it at Scotiabank Arena, so I think it only makes sense. Like, the best talent in the WNBA gets to play the best talent where the NBA players play. So kudos to them for making it happen. Obviously, the marketplace responded, sold out. There will be more tickets released with holds and things that get released, just like Raptors games. So if you haven't got a ticket, there's still some available, and it's priced to sell. Like, they wanted to sell out, create a great atmosphere for all the women that are playing there. But it's great to just see people supporting and actually investing in it. Like, I think that's the thing, is like, show up, buy the tickets, show that you support it. Yeah.
Canadian Tire is going to be investing huge.
Yeah, Canadian Tire, what they said, like, they came out and committed 50% of all their partnership dollars in sports going forward is going to be spent on women's professional sports. So equally between men and women. I think that sets a precedent in the marketplace. And I mean, good for them. Like, they're being a leader in the marketplace. They didn't have to do that, but they said this is something that's really important to us. So that's great.
Last question for you, T. Is there one piece of advice that you feel like you're always giving that is pertinent, it's poignant?
No.
No?
No, it's not poignant. I mean, I don't know.
I thought that question was going to stop the show.
I feel like people come to you and they ask your opinion.
They ask
and
me
you're
that
like,
a lot.
What should I do?
I wish I had great advice.
Can you
but
do something about this guy?
Just tell him. It was a bad question.
No, it wasn't. It was a great question. I get it all the time, but I don't have a great answer. I think one time I was quoted on they did a little thing on Sportsnet, and I stole someone else's quote, so it's not my best advice. But basically,
we all do that.
Yeah, basically it just said, speak up, even if your voice shakes. Speak up, which basically means, like, even if you feel like you don't have a place at the table, even if you feel like you don't belong, your voice is still valuable. You need to be heard. There's a reason you're there. So speak up and make sure that you're part of the conversation. Yeah. So I don't say it's a great piece of advice, because sometimes that's probably not the right thing to do in that situation, but I think generally it's, we all have a place we can all add value. I think more than anything in the world today, everybody comes from a different place, whether it's where you grew up, your culture, your religion, like your age, whatever it is, we all have something unique and valuable to add to the conversation. So never be afraid to speak up, say your opinion, what you bring and what experience you bring to the table. I mean, you guys do it for a living, right? If you think about it, all you're doing is speaking up and giving your opinion. And I think more people should have the confidence to do that.
That's great stuff. Thank you. Thank you so much for being on the show. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. You're doing amazing things. Amazing things.
Thanks. No, it's a pleasure to be here. Even better when the Raptors get the win, right?
Oh, so much better. Next game for the Raptors goes Thursday night against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Tip-off goes at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Oh, I can't wait for a piece of this pizza.
Yeah, you're getting